Hey guys, welcome to Wealth Wisdom Financial Live. We do lives. Who knows when we do them? It's when we can get something scheduled. And I love doing lives with amazing people that we run across, friends, and hear amazing stories. And doing them live means that you can interact with us, right? So if you're here, if you're listening to this video, interact, ask questions. This is a fun time to do this and learn on the fly, right? So today, though, I got a friend of ours. If you haven't known, we've had um, um, Chris Prefontaine on. I've had his son, Zach Beach on, or son-in-law, Zach Beach. And then now we have Nick, which is Chris's son. But Chris or Nick has an amazing story that we just had to share with you guys. A lot of times people, and especially in our world, people will blame their circumstances for things and say, well, I couldn't do this because I couldn't make this amount of money or make this sale because, and there's always a reason as to why they could not do something. And from what I've heard from Nick's story, again, hearing his story, and from the people he's around, he does not let that stop him. So, a little bit about our man Nick. He's a 3 times best-selling author and was named a top motivational speaker of 2022 in Yahoo Finance. So again, he's been around a bit. He's a speaker, founder, and CEO of Common Goal, and he uses the S.T.E.P system. He's able to, again, we're going to talk about this, that leads clients through their traumas. I think we all have certain traumas that we will let lead us, even if you haven't faced something crazy, right? But we all have some sort of trauma, and he helps them make it through, and helps them where the limitless potential lies are there. And he's been featured in Brainz Media, Swaay and Authority Magazine. So he's been in a few things. So anyway, Nick, thanks for joining us.
Hey, I've been looking forward to this, Brandon, and I think I was sharing with you. I think we're gonna have some fun, so I'm excited to be here with you.
Awesome. Well, and I know that you know what we do, because I've I've been around a little bit, and I've known your name and your family's name in our group for quite some time. But not everybody knows Nick Prefontaine. We might have heard, smart real estate coach. We might have heard those other people. I don't really want to talk about those guys right now. Let's
Those
talk
other
about,
guys, no, we don't
yeah,
want to talk about those guys.
let's not talk about them. Let's talk about you. They're cool, but I think you have a better story. But no offense to them, but your story is awesome. So
Hey, none taken.
yeah,
I
so
didn't take any offense to that statement.
just don't share it with your dad because he might be like, "What?" So yeah, take us back. Like, you now are a motivational speaker. Like, how can you be a motivational speaker? I thought, um, I don't know. So how do you just become a motivational speaker?
Sure. Well, really, and the whole reason centered around that was my experience of my snowboarding accident back when I was 14 years old. So I was on my way to the mountain, Wachusett Mountain, and all my friends, Brandon, we brought all of our stuff on the bus to get ready so we wouldn't miss a precious moment once we got to the mountain. And once we got to the mountain, when the rest of the class migrated inside, we headed right for the top because we were ready. We got prepared and got ready on the bus.
Yeah.
On the way up on the chairlift, we noticed that it was very icy because it had been raining. So people were wiping out everywhere. However, it wasn't our first trip down the mountain, so to speak. We were pretty experienced. So going up the chairlift, it caught my eye. One of the things, the chairlift went right over the terrain park, and the thing that caught my eye was the biggest jump in the terrain park. And once I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's it. I'm hitting that thing. I'm going off that thing." So I got to the top, buckled into my snowboard, took a breath of that crisp winter air, and I confidently charged towards that jump with all my speed. And then, Brandon, going up to the jump, I caught the edge of my snowboard, and that kind of threw me off balance. And I was going way too fast to stop. So I was forced to go off the jump. I was told that I landed on my head and I wasn't wearing a helmet. One of the things that I learned after, and this was all after the fact that I learned, was that my goggles were the only protection that my head had. So
Yeah.
I may have mentioned that I didn't have a helmet on. The goggles though that I was wearing were there was a lot of cushioning in those goggles, and mysteriously or not so mysteriously, depending on what you believe, I think everything happens for a reason though. When I hit, they braced my fall, the
Mhm.
impact. And then I kept hitting my head and kept falling down the mountain. And as I did, mysteriously, the goggles moved to cushion each blow as I rolled down the mountain. They wanted to bring in a helicopter to the mountain because of the severity of my injury.
Mhm.
However, they couldn't, Brandon, because it was too windy. So they had to send in an ambulance. Out of the paramedics, the team of paramedics all work in the area, there was only one who could intubate on the spot. And because of the severity of my injuries, I needed that to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
He was one of the paramedics that showed up to the mountain that day. So that was just one of the several things that broke in my favor, that really lined up for me being able to make a full recovery. Once I got, and why I'm here today, even talking with you. Another one of those was once I got to the hospital, I was in the intensive care unit, unable
Mhm.
to communicate with anyone. My parents were in the room as well, and I later learned after the fact that I probably, just based on the impact, would have been out for maybe 7 to 10 days, just from the impact alone. However, the swelling in my brain had gone up so much that they were afraid that I would wake up, panic, and worry, and be like, "What happened? What happened?" And then the
Yeah.
swelling in my brain would increase, and then I would have died.
Yeah.
So they had to induce me, what it's called, into a coma, and I ended up being in a coma for 3 weeks. During that time, and when I first got into the accident, when I first made it to the intensive care unit at the hospital, my parents were in my room. I was resting in a coma, unable to communicate with anyone. And each time the doctors would come into my room, they walk into my room where I was in the coma, and they figured, oh, he's in a coma. He can't hear us.
Yeah.
They went to share the news with my parents, and at least initially, it was, as you can imagine, worse and worse and worse each time the doctors came in to share prognosis and what was going on with me. So my parents had the foresight to say, no, 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 not here, not in front of him. They
Yeah.
understood something that, I'm very fortunate for this. I don't know if I would have made it this far and been able to make a full recovery and accomplish what all I've been able to in my life if they didn't do this one simple thing. Um, because this allowed, not out, I didn't have outside influences coming into my ears, even though I was out for the count, unable to communicate with anyone. They knew that I was still taking in information.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
made the doctors step outside, share the news. And once they were outside, they learned that I probably wasn't going to be able to walk, talk, or eat again, even if I was able to come out of the coma.
Yeah.
And I say, even if I was able to come out of my coma, because very early on, they didn't know.
Yeah.
They just weren't sure with everything going on. And luckily for me, this allowed me to treat it like any other situation.
Yeah.
So I didn't have these outside influences, so I didn't know what was going on. So I treated it like any other situation. I just, as soon as I was aware of my surroundings and the work that was left in front of me, which came about almost exactly a month after my accident, I hardly have any memory of being in the ICU at the UMass Memorial where I was in Worcester. I hardly have any memory being there because it was most of the time I was in a coma, and then it was coming off of the drugs from being induced into the coma. So I don't really have a lot of memory of being there. All my memories there are fuzzy, if anything. Like, I've gone back there several times since. I've walked through the ICU and I've been like, "Oh, you look familiar.
Yeah.
Like, this whole place looks familiar. The faces, the layout." I just had I have no conscious memory of being there because there were so many drugs I was coming off of as part of being in the coma.
What
Um,
year was that when you
2003.
2003? So how old are you now?
Sorry, throat's a little dry. 34.
Gotcha. So
34.
I was thinking about this because around that time, my wife is around 38 now, and what this reminded me of, and I've had some health issues, and I almost died, because of certain health problems personally, right? And the doctor said, "Oh, you can't do this. It's not. You're never going to do run or anything." And then I joined the Marine Corps, right? Which is crazy. And my wife, she had a car accident and totaled the car. And apparently, what I heard is, and she has brain fractures and all kinds of stuff, and doesn't remember a week of her life. She was going to go into the Navy the week before, signed up, but then she didn't because now she has a brain fracture and that's not possible. But the lights, when she hit the ditch, it was the lights all of a sudden went out. Some friend of hers was driving behind and had seen the lights go off, and that's what saved her. Was because if that person didn't wasn't there, she would have been lost, right? And I just think some of these like situations, she's in a really good place. God put her in that, I guess, right? But overcoming that has been a huge thing for her, right?
Hmm.
And for me, overcoming certain things. And so we've been put in these things that defined us. But you've now said, okay, I could be, and people have said this happened and it defines us in the negative way, but this didn't define you in a negative way. It changed you in a positive way.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So there was I was talking about, I don't really remember a month of my life after coming out of
mhm,
the coma and everything. So my memories start at Franciscan Children's Hospital, the rehab hospital where I was at in Boston, and that's where I began my journey to learn how to walk, talk, and eat again.
mhm,
Because I didn't have those outside influences and those voices in the room, other doctors saying he's probably not going to do this or not that. I just treated it like any other situation. Like I said, I got up, kept getting better every day, and they were long days for me. So I remember I was initially put on the third floor, which was reserved for the most critical of cases. And
mhm,
I hardly have any memory of being there. My memories really start when I was on the second floor, when I was moved down there, and I was still in pretty rough shape. My days, they were long days for me. So I would start off by getting up in the morning.
yeah,
I would need an occupational therapist to teach me how to shower again. If you can if you can picture that. A lot of us don't think about these little things that we take for granted every day, but I literally had to learn how to do everything. So I needed someone to teach me, like, as simple as the water before the soap, like that kind of thing, and what order to do things in. Then I would have breakfast and start off my morning therapy sessions of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. After which you broke for lunch. And I always point back to the story, Brandon, because at this lunch was really, I think, the only time that doubt crept into my mind. And I'd like to share this because people hear my recovery and they think, oh, must be easy for you. That's just
Hmm.
you, got in
Yeah.
the accident, you ran out of the hospital. No, like everyone has doubt. So I was sitting in my wheelchair in between therapies, just looking over my situation, and I just couldn't figure it out. And I remember turning to my mom and asking her, am I ever going to be able to walk again? And she didn't even hesitate. She said, of course you are. That's what we're doing here. So you can get everything back so
Yeah.
we can go home and go back to our normal lives and everything. And once she said that, then I was like off to the races. So unknowingly, the S.T.E.P system came about. So unknowingly, I've used the S.T.E.P system throughout my life. It's just the way that myself and my family deals with things whenever things come up. And it it took me a little bit because working with a mentor a few years ago, she said to me, well, okay, so you ran out of the hospital, you got in the accident, ran out of the hospital, how'd you do it? I said, I don't know, I just got up and
It-
kept taking my next step every day. And then I got to the point where I ran out of the hospital. And she just said, no, like, how'd you do it? And she kept asking me, and it was so frustrating. And I was finally able to distill what it was that I did. And that's the STEP system. So that stands for support. You have to make sure that you have the support of your family and friends around you. And Brandon, this frees up so much of your mental energy to focus on accomplishing your objective. It might sound overly simplistic, but this very act of getting everyone on board can
yeah.
save you hours and hours of frustration from the start. T in the STEP system is trust.
Let's stay there for just a second. So the support. So a
Yeah.
lot of times, this is the thing I think about again. Whether we have a major crisis, some of the things I tell people, as far as whenever they want to do a business, want to do anything, I say one is know that you know that you know that you're called to it, and have a team around you, right? A team around you that cares about you and cares not just about what you're going to accomplish, the sale of a business, the sale of a product, but they care about you, right? And so I feel like what I heard is you had your family, a support system that were there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot,
No,
a
that's
lot
right.
of a lot of times,
I like how you're picking up on it and reflecting it back on how you do that same thing. That's awesome. I think everyone can apply this to their own lives.
yeah, and a lot of times people don't have they haven't built the support system, or they it's the thing happens, but you one of the things I bet you is your family was doing things before you were 14 in the hospital. You guys had something going on, right? Right. And so that's something that I think is important to be putting into the support system before stuff hits the fan, and then you're able to draw from it when things are hard and when things are good, right? So
Absolutely.
support. So, and you can be the support. This is the thing I think about too. I can be the support for somebody else when they're going through it, or it might be the other end. So, um, you know, that's anyway. So what the next one? So then you had to go and you have support. Now what's next?
The next letter is T, and that's for trust. So trust that once you take your first step, your next step is always going to be available for you, and you have to trust that. This also starts with trusting yourself. Trust that you have this calling inside of you for a reason. So I liken this to that voice in the back of your head. Everyone has the voice in the back of their head. Call it your conscience, God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it. But everyone
Mhm.
always has that voice in the back of their head. So when I was first, before I could even talk again, when I was first recovering and like very early on in my recovery, I overheard my parents say that, okay, like let's get a plan to make sure Nick makes a full recovery. And what I heard in my head was in the back of my head was, no, you're gonna run out. So then running out became our common goal. And
Yeah.
the task that we were meeting with all of our doctors, all of our therapists weekly to see, okay, what are you doing to help get Nick to our common goal, which is to run out of the hospital. So that's one of the things detailed that I detail within the STEP system, which at the end I'll give all your listeners a way that they can go and download STEP, the ebook for free, which teaches them all about support, trust, energy, and persistence. So I just gave away the final two
Oh
letters.
no! Oh man, we're not even there yet. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so I was thinking about this too on the trust. So, and you talk about step, right? And so a lot of times, and knowing people have something happen. You know, you guys are in the um, real estate world, and the real estate world right now, things are going crazy like it was back in the day. I know your dad had a story on back in the day, but the movement trust is you have to take a step, right? And
mm,
I think about this. I've thought about this a bunch, and our mantra has been similar to yours, which is fun because I'm looking. I'm like 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other. It's the only way we can do it. And when we had a business, it was 1 foot in front of the other. Now, here's the funny thing: when you take a step, you're actually off balance, um, right? Because you're moving from one side to the other. It's a it's not just a balance thing because you're walking, right? But you have to trust that your foot is going to move in that direction, and all the other stuff, and it requires trust just to move,
so
right?
even the simple act of taking your next step requires trust. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I love it.
just to
That's well
move
said.
requires trust that you're going to move in gravity. We trust that gravity will put us back on there. We
Yeah.
have a trust system with
Yeah.
this thing called gravity that is there, right? Anyway,
Mhm.
um, so then we have trust, but now we have to actually do something else with it. What is that?
Well, that's the next letter after trust is E, and that's for energy. So you have to make sure that, all right, so maintaining your energy is going to allow your body to just take that next step and to keep moving forward. And that's why maintaining your energy is so important.
Yep.
Without having your energy, how can you expect to affect and improve other people's lives if you're not taking care of yourself first and foremost? This comes down to, I still to this day will do natural treatments. I see a Chinese Taoist energy healer, Qigong master, Tai Chi, Qigong. It's like one of the same thing. So
Yeah.
I see him once a month for a tune-up for a twina, and what that translates roughly into is Chinese massage. And then I see another person about the same time frame once a month for a craniosacral or a myofascial release. Both of these, I know they're. It comes down to basically their massage treatments, but I treat them more like energy.
Yeah.
I really do, because just by doing these two simple things allows me to operate at my best and affect people to the highest degree possible. And that's what I try to do every day. And I think it's so important that you're taking care of yourself first and foremost.
But and this is something I was thinking about again with the support system and with your accident, right? So you didn't have the energy probably, but you borrowed the energy from your parents, the support system. to get through it, right? That's one thing I feel like is within the steps connected, and then also doing the things that give us life, right? I make sure I go to the gym regularly. The little steps to make sure I'm still on the right track, and you put those rocks in place so that way when things happen, we're good, right? That I love that. I just think I was just thinking like the energy of your family and the doctors and the other people to help you hold you up. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I usually don't even talk about this in just a podcast interview. I usually save it for my keynote, but I mean, I got to mention it now because you touched on it. So my parents had someone come in and perform Reiki on me
Yeah,
while I was in the coma. People in the hospital said no one had ever done that before.
yeah,
And they couldn't really believe it. So while I was in the coma, someone came in and performed Reiki on me. And I think that's interesting because the treatments that I get, so the cranial sacral massage and the Tuina therapy, are both treatments where they go through your body. I view them as energy treatments, but they go through your body step by step.
yeah,
It's really similar to like a Reiki massage.
yeah,
And that's what I had while I was in the coma, which is uh, pretty amazing. That again, my parents had that foresight. They were into back in 2003. They were into like natural treatments and things before it was even a thing. Um, which
and-
really was amazing. So I really didn't while I was recovering, I didn't have a chance to focus on my energy because I was so driven every day I got up to keep going forward and keep okay, what do I do today? What do I do today? Just keep taking the next step. That the focusing on my energy portion didn't come until I was fully recovered. When
yeah,
I was out of the hospital, but my parents had someone come in to the hospital and perform Reiki on me. I thought that was interesting and definitely relevant to what you were saying. And then finally, Brandon, the final letter in the step system is P. That stands for persistence. So once you've taken your first step, keep getting up every day and taking your next step no matter how small. So by continuing to move forward every day, you are building an unstoppable momentum. Even talk about like how I applied this when I was in the hospital and how I apply it every day in life, whatever I'm tackling is, especially when I'm starting off a new venture, is to just make sure I'm doing something
yeah,
every day, whether it's planning and going over what the week ahead is. And in this case, when I was in the hospital, I was doing exercises on my own every day, even on weekends. And then with like now with launching Common Goal and my motivational speaking and working with people that are going through trauma, help them get through to the other side and be able to thrive with the rest of their lives. I started this a year and a half ago, and especially when I was first starting out, it was every day, even on like Sundays, is I gotta be doing just something, just writing for whether it's a half an hour, just something every day to continue to move the ball forward. And by doing that, I've been able to build a just a crazy momentum, and then eventually the work takes care of itself. Where the momentum eventually, when you're getting going, that there's really no stopping it.
yeah.
So
I
that
again thinking about it from our lens of we have different language, right? But we call it with our still method, making micro adjustments,
yeah,
right? If you take micro adjustments over time, people will say, "How do you have this amazing business and all of this?" I'm like, "Well, we kept doing one foot in front of the other, and we built on that, and then that's how we got where we were. Writing a book, writing 2 books, 3 books, 5 books, doesn't matter, right? It's about one foot in front of the other, and continuing, even when you get knocked down, because you will, because the world is going to say you can't do it, you won't be able to accomplish. You're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, things like that.
Hmm.
But we have to do that persistency. Get back up. We fall down, we get back up.
Absolutely. So if you fast forward a little bit, less than after I got to the rehab hospital, less than 2 months later, I ran out of the hospital. And as I mentioned, that was always my goal. So I remember on that last day going to, it was my goal also. My food goal was to get a grinder.
Yeah,
No, you're not from New England, but that just means like a sandwich, like a sub, like a sandwich. I don't know the vernacular, the language vernacular. I don't know if just like a sandwich from a pizza shop or like a meatball sandwich. So that was my goal. So I got that. Then from there, I ran out of the hospital,
yeah,
and that's recorded. We have that video. Then it wasn't after I got home. It wasn't like the work was done for me,
yeah, yeah,
Brandon. I had to continue to go to outpatient therapy for another 6 months, physical, occupational, and speech therapy, along with being tutored all summer long, 5 days a week, in order to continue on to high school with the rest of my classmates. Again, this was something that was reflected back to me from my mentor. I said, well, okay, so 18 months after that, I got my start in real estate, and that was knocking on doors of um, notice of default doors, homeowners that had missed several payments on their mortgage up to 10 or 12, and the bank still hadn't foreclosed on them. So I would go to the door, knock on their door, and um, try to help them out and set up a meeting for an investor to come meet with them about buying their property. And it took my mentor Trisha, reflecting it back to me to be like, well, wait a minute, you only like 18 months after recovering from a life-threatening snowboarding accident and being in a coma for 3 weeks and running out of the hospital, you were going to some pretty rough areas of cities and knocking on doors. And I was like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. Oh, because I don't know if you can relate to this, but when you're younger, time is compressed.
yeah,
So 6 months, 18 months, 24 months, that seems like a lifetime away. Whereas now, when I'm 34 years old, 6 months, 18 months, 24 months seems like a blink.
yeah.
So what it was a lifetime back then, but now I see that it really wasn't that much time. After I graduated high school, I got my real estate license and started selling homes, helping buyers and sellers as a realtor. And then I was asked by my dad in 2014 to help him with the marketing some of his properties that he was getting under contract. And I was reluctant at first, but I finally said, all right, I can do that along my realtor business. Okay, that's fine. I'll do it. And then that turned into helping the buyers. And then um, it just didn't make sense by January of 2016 to keep my real estate license as a realtor. So I transitioned to a full-time investor and helping him. And doing that, that's what I'm still doing to this day. And also pursuing my passion, which is working with people and I've always done it throughout my whole life, going through trauma, helping them get through to the other side and to be able to thrive with the rest of their lives. And that's with the development of the STEP system. That's exactly what we're doing.
I think that honestly, with you're uniquely qualified for this, but with the COVID thing that happened, with the Wall Street stuff that's happening, with I don't know, everything that's going on, I feel like we're all in a state of trauma right now. And this whole chaos. We're in that confusion, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. And this is, and people maybe they haven't gone. through a major accident, snowboarding accident or anything like that. But I feel like a lot of people are experiencing trauma, they just don't know that they're there. So I think your words, to a lot of people, it's the same, it's just not, um, it's not a snowboarding accident, it's, a virus, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Um, that's something I've been thinking about is, like, a lot of people are, traumatized, and we're dealing with that, and the rates of depression, suicide, all of this stuff are high everywhere, blinking red. So the world needs us to say, you just need a step.
mm. Just take one step at a time, deal with what's in front of you. So when I was going through this experience, it was, as I mentioned, I when I was talking about E for energy, is just all I could focus on, and all I had the bandwidth to do was to just every day that I got up, to just get up and look at what is in front of me and take that next step. Every day, ask therapists, just do whatever they said. Because I'm not saying follow everyone blindly, but obviously I didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
Um, I had to listen to the therapist because they were the ones that were going to tell me how to get better. So I liken that to like coaches, mentors, experts. Um, that are where you want to be. Um, just have that blind faith. That's one of the things. That's another one of the things that I talk about.
yeah. I think having the guides, as you mentioned, you have your dad and other people there that have helped you. I think having our mentors, and again, part of my when I tell any entrepreneur, business owner, is know that have a team around you, and then know your numbers. Those three things, and the teams are your your people, like the people that you can trust, that know they know you, right? Um, and I think again, the world is very lonely right now. Um, we need more of that. So join a team, join this team if learn how real estate works. Like people have jumped, knocked on doors. I mean, we get slammed in the face all the time with. I mean, I sell life insurance of all things, right? No, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, all right. So let me. I want to.
You just gotta keep going, right? You just gotta keep
Yeah,
going. But I'd like to see. I mean, I want to make sure I have enough time to give away my free ebook to your listeners. They can
yeah,
get that by going to my website, nickprefontaine.com/step. And that'll help them take their first step today. That's going to teach them all about the STEP system, which is support, trust, energy, and persistence. So even though we had quite a bit of time today, Brandon, to go through it, we only covered at like a 10,000 foot view.
hmm
We only covered like the cliff notes. So if you want to download the full STEP system, go there. You can download it for free today.
awesome. So guys, go there when you catch this video. I know it's coming out there, and you'll find it on YouTube, on our podcast, or other things. But go check out Nick Prefontaine's step system. I think we all need it. Again, just if you haven't gone through a major accident or anything like that, again, I think that a lot of people are going through trauma in some area, and we all need support. We all need to take the steps forward. And so, I don't know why everybody shouldn't be downloading this. Anything we want to show on this website, I was listening to some of it. So, um,
That's awesome. Yeah, just one more thing to add. So I was really uh, it's amazing because since my mentor Trisha helped me develop this step system that I unknowingly used to not only make a full recovery but run out of the hospital, I realized that is what I do to tackle anything in my life. literally anything in my life. So it's funny. She knows how I work now. And
Yeah.
when I first started working with her, she didn't know this, but she knows exactly how I work. So anytime she gives me a task, I literally, it can go back to the step system. Okay, I got my support lined up. I'm trusting. I'm making sure my energy's lined up. I'm persistent. Like I have my persistence. So um, it's really it's really amazing once she reflected that back to me. So I just
Yeah.
encourage anyone, if they were interested in all with what I had to say, go to nickprefontaine.com/step and download the step system for free. Get started on your first step today.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nick, for being here and sharing your amazing story. I know that we all need to be stepping. So I'm sure you've heard
Stepping,
that
I love
before.
it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you've heard it. I don't know. I just thought it out, but every one of us. And again, there will be opposition. There will be, again, there's gravity, but there's also, weights that go against us when we take the step. So you need a team, you need a support to help you move in the right direction. And honestly, the world needs us to. So, yeah. So thanks, guys, for watching this video. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, hit like, and share this. Put a comment there. I'm sure Nick and I would love to hear from you, and let people know about this, and share it with friends. We need more people, again, to be stepping.